Welcome to this AOS-CX 10.12 update concerning the CX4100i and feature enhancement, support for Mac-based QoS policies, and this concerns the Classifier enhancement. Steve Bartlett, this is me, Technical Marketing Engineer supporting CX switching. So a quick look at the overview of where we've been with this feature prior to the 10.12 release. So prior to the 10.12 release, the 4100i did not have support for a classifier Mac for QoS related policies. It only had support for IPv4 and IPv6 classifiers, a little bit restricting. So the inclusion of the Mac-based classifier brings the 4100 support for this feature set, and it's now more aligned with other platforms like the 6200 from a QoS perspective. And the feature itself on the 4100i is critical to help mapping selected traffic like Profinet and ARP, which are both effectively a layer 2 protocol and need to be classified if you want to use those layer 2 protocols into a QoS policy. So we now can do that. And the classifier supports the ether type field match. So let's look at the configuration. It's very straightforward. So from the configuration editor and the class and the question mark options, we've got all classes, IP, which is IPv4, IPv6, and Mac is the new classifier option that we can use. So if we start to look at that in terms of leveraging a Mac classifier policy, then we look at this particular example here, class Mac strict. First line is match any Mac source address, any Mac destination address, and the ARP, and obviously counting the hits. And the second line is matching any source Mac, any destination Mac with an ether type of 8892, which is the Profinet ether type. So that would be the classifier for Mac strict as an example. Just a couple of things that we need to call out. Due to the generic ASIC restrictions, it's limited to the any option. So you can't specify a source Mac or a destination Mac for that example. So that source destination Mac addressing within the class is not supported. And as part of this release, this feature is not extended to the 6000 and the 6100 platforms for the Mac classifier support. So just be aware of that. And we only have support for inbound interface policies only at layer 2. So they are the caveats when using it. And if we were to put this into a QoS policy on the 4100i, this is what it would look like as an example. So I've got a class Mac called strict, and within that I've got two entries matching on any source Mac, any destination Mac with the ARP protocol, and also one matching on any source destination for ether type 8892, which is Profinet. And then I'm creating a policy called strict-sp. So I'm using the class Mac strict, and the action on this policy is we're applying it to a COS value of 5. And then I'm applying this apply policy strict-sp inbound on this interface here. So that's applying the policy on inbound only, which is supported. Now, not forgetting, we do have to look at the queue profiles and the schedule profiles, and they obviously go hand in hand. So if you're not using the factory defaults, this is an example that I put together. It's not a recommendation, it's just one of the options you can use. So on the queue profile, I've made a queue profile called strict-Mac, and you can see that there's 8 queues using COS values from 0 to 7. And then we have a schedule profile. This is allowing the max bandwidth to the relevant queues, which are then, of course, the queues aligned to the appropriate COS values. So you can see these queues here have been allocated different percentage of maximum bandwidth, and the queue that I'm using in this example is COS5 is mapped to Q5 as part of this policy action, and that's got a maximum bandwidth of 20%. And not forgetting, you need to apply that COS-Q profile and the schedule profile to make sure that they are aligned and the ones that are active on the switch. And this is the scale. As you can see, the 4100i, the number of classes configurable in a system is 512, and the various options within that class and the policy entries here, you can just review this at your leisure. That brings us to the end of the presentation. I thank you for tuning in.